Hi everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Readsy. Today let's talk about how to write a scene. So a scene is basically a unit of story structure. And very much like with a chapter, which we've also got a video on that you can check out in the cards, a scene is a pretty flexible unit, although it does kind of have a basic purpose that it serves. Ultimately, a scene is a depiction of a single event or incident in which something is being discussed with the possibility for change and then does change. And it's usually contained within a specific kind of temporal boundary. So if 2 weeks pass, that's going to break us up into multiple scenes. A scene is usually going to be set within one time and one place. You can have very long scenes, you can have very, very short scenes. A scene can be as short as a single sentence in some cases. But to get an understanding of how a scene works and how to write one, let's break this down by some of the key qualities that make up a scene. Number one is change. The most basic rule of writing a scene is that the scene should advance the story. Therefore, something should change. Meaning, if you were to remove it from the story, the end outcome wouldn't be possible or would be different. Some scenes will have a bit more of a subtle change in the story, others will be much more pivotal, but every scene should have an effect on the outcome and the direction of the story. When in doubt, try to identify what's on the table, what's being discussed, what's kind of being bargained for between the character and another character, or between the character and their situation, or between the character and themselves. Where is the possibility for change at the beginning of the scene, and how does it actually change in the end? Basically what you're looking for is to identify the potential energy of the scene. Number two is tension, conflict, and stakes. Basically the basic building blocks of a story. This goes hand in hand with change, since change is usually a sign that you do have conflict going on. They all revolve around a goal, something that the character wants or needs. The stakes are the possible negative outcome, or what the character has to lose if they don't achieve their goal, or what they risk losing if they make an attempt to achieve that goal. Conflict comes from forces preventing them from achieving their goal, or that might be responsible for their losses. And then tension happens when we get the feeling that all of this is significant. If you feel like you're lacking any of these things, they really do all revolve around the character's goal, so try to come back to that. Number three is efficiency. There's a classic piece of screenwriting advice that applies very well to basically any kind of narrative storytelling, and that's get in late, get out early. Basically enter the scene as late as possible, leave the scene as early as you can. Once that change has happened, kind of the purpose of the scene has been fulfilled and the tension will start to dwindle. So that's why you want to get out early. Similarly, you want to get in late so that we're entering at a moment of high energy rather than having to wait around for the scene to start. For example, let's say that what's being discussed in the scene is that we have our main character, Linda, and she's a dog walker, but she has lost her neighbor, Martha's dog, Roscoe. Now she has to go confront Martha and figure out what she's going to do, how she's going to break the news to her, and if she's going to try to come up with some elaborate lie. We have potential energy and conflict and tension, all the good building blocks of a scene. Now what we need to do is tell it in an efficient way to make the most out of that tension so that it doesn't start to dwindle. Now let's say the scene were to go like this. We start with Linda doing her hair, looking in the mirror, then she waits for the bus, then she takes the bus, she gets to Martha's, but Martha's not home, so she sits on the curb, wanders through the gardens. Martha gets home, Linda sits and watches a sitcom while Martha makes some tea, they drink the tea together, and finally, after all of this, Linda decides she needs to face her demons and bring up the dog. This scene is full of extraneous beats. We take so long to get to the actual purpose of the scene. All of the beats that come before are completely pointless. What's important in this scene is the confrontation Linda is going to have with Martha about the dog. Therefore, we don't want to include any beats that don't really pertain to that conflict. Number four is structure. Scenes are part of the overall structure of a larger piece, but scenes have an internal structure as well. Now, not all scenes will necessarily be structured like this because there are exceptions. There are scenes that are very short or very strange. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it is kind of a flexible unit of story. But most scenes will follow the kind of natural arc of a story, meaning that there will be an inciting incident, a rising action, a climax, and then if there is a falling action, it's going to be very short, maybe just a paragraph or two. Something to kind of close up kind of the rhythm of the scene, but nothing drawn out too long because at that point we've lost a lot of tension. You want to structure the scene in a way where the tension is increasingly rising, just like you would structure a story on a larger scale. The structure also includes how the timeline is organized. Is it linear? Do we have any diversion into flashback? Do we have any internal monologues or kind of moments of suspended narration? How is this balanced with the dialogue? This all plays into how the scene is structured. It isn't really one way, but this all comes back to the pacing. when you want the scene to be moving quicker, when you want to slow it down with something like flashback or with internal narrative or anything like that. And finally, number 5, there's character. Now, we often say that a good scene should either advance the plot or develop a character, but ideally a scene should do both. We should always be learning about a character through their actions, and that's going to be shown through the plot. So a strong scene can accomplish both things without much trouble. In fact, a good sentence can do both of those things. If you think a scene is relevant to the story but it doesn't develop the character more, try to do a little more problem solving to make the scene work harder. Think about how what the character does in the scene or what's happening in the scene reveals the character through their reactions to that event or through their internal narrative. Try to get deeper into the character's internal lens and show the events distinctly through their point of view in a way that only they can see the world. Are there missed opportunities to look into the character's backstory or explore their goals and motivations a little more? Or is the character not being as active as they could be? So try to develop the character in every single scene as well as move the plot forward. So that's how to write a scene. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips coming at you every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.